there's a lot more coming out in dribs and drabs, with the Justice Department now saying that while the law demands the entirety of the Epstein files get released on December 19th, what was that, a week ago? They don't anticipate complying with the law until deep into January, because they have teams of lawyers right now poring over what the DOJ now claims to be a mountain of 1 million documents. That's what they claim. A lot of them are duplicates. They claim to have lawyers working overtime, redacting. More on all that later. I may do another show tomorrow because there's a lot in those files. But the snail's pace at which the documents from the Epstein files are being made public, well, that's infuriating House Republican Thomas Massie and House Democrat Khanna, who put together the discharge petition that forced the release of the files. They are now saying they are preparing resolutions to impeach Attorney General Pam Bondi over her failure to release the files. Massie says he has Republicans who would vote to impeach her. They also plan to hold her in contempt of Congress and are also planning to make criminal referrals. Republican Thomas Massie and Democrat Khanna say they are preparing what are called inherent contempt charges against Pam Bondi. Inherent contempt charges against Pam Bondi. It would be great if they spoke plain English. So what does that mean? Okay, I'm going to explain to you what inherent contempt charges means. It's pretty incredible. The House could impeach, the House of Representatives right now, theoretically could impeach Pam Bondi and then have her tried in the Senate. And if the Senate voted to convict, that means Bondi would be automatically removed from office. And the President of the United States, according to the Constitution, is powerless. He cannot veto a Senate conviction after an impeachment trial. She would be gone. But a conviction in the Senate would require 2/3 of the Senate to vote to convict her, and that's not going to happen, at least not before the midterms. Well, then there's holding Bondi in contempt of Congress, where a member of Congress, usually a committee chair, makes a criminal referral against Pam Bondi to the Justice Department, and in order to prosecute Bondi, that would require cooperation from the Justice Department, currently run by, who would that be? Yes, Pam Bondi. So that's going to happen. You might remember that Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, two advisors from the first Trump administration, they refused to testify before the January 6th committee. They ended up getting convicted and doing jail time. Last year, while Biden was president, they did jail time for contempt of Congress. But that required a Justice Department willing to prosecute them for contempt of Congress. Biden's Justice Department was run by Merrick Garland. He received the criminal referral from the January 6th committee and decided there was enough evidence to bring Bannon and Navarro to trial for contempt of Congress, and they won. Contempt of Congress is very hard to prosecute. Very rarely do people get convicted of contempt of Congress because it requires 2 of the 3 branches of our government to cooperate, the president and the legislative branch. And then you got the 3rd branch, our Supreme Court. They might overturn the convictions. They didn't overturn Bannon's or Navarro's. Pam Bondi is our current attorney general. There's no way she is ever going to act on a criminal referral made against Pam Bondi. This is why House Republican Thomas Massie and House Democrat Khanna, these were the 2 guys who introduced the discharge petition to release the Epstein files, they are now threatening what are called inherent contempt charges. Inherent contempt charges, meaning they are signaling to Pam Bondi that unless she turns over the entirety of the Epstein files right now, they will bypass the Department of Justice and resort to rarely used inherent contempt charges, where the Sergeant at Arms for the House of Representatives would arrest Pam Bondi, and as she is tried in the House chamber for obstruction of congressional proceedings, she would be held by the Sergeant of Arms, presumably in some kind of jail. Congress no longer has a jail in their basement, although I have seen I've been held in Congress's jail. Maybe they would hold her This has not been done in 91 years, but it's been done. They've done it. William P. McCracken, you can see him on the left. He was a former Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Aeronautics during the Hoover administration. He was tried in the Senate in 1934 for contempt of Congress, involving an investigation into how the government awarded airmail routes to private carriers. Okay? So the contempt of Congress charges were brought forth in the Senate by then Senator Hugo Black, who later became a justice on the Supreme Court. McCracken, on the left, was convicted by the Senate. He ended up serving 10 days, mostly in the D.C. jail, and the Supreme Court upheld his conviction. Now, that's the last time the Senate used their sergeant at arms to arrest someone for contempt and then convict that person in a Senate trial. Now, either chamber can do this. Hasn't been done in 91 years. The House can do it, and if you're convicted, you got to go right to the Supreme Court to get it overturned. You can't appeal it to the Senate. And if you're convicted, if the Senate does it, which happened with McCracken, he couldn't go to the House to appeal the sentence. And the president can't veto the conviction. It's up to the Supreme Court. So it's not going to happen. The political will just isn't there. If Democrats win back the House, then I could see this not really happening, but more people talking about it. I suspect a lot of people on both sides of the aisle would view this as a bad precedent to set. For example, think about this now, this is what the power that the legislative branch has, but doesn't use, okay? In other words, the House right now could try anybody for contempt of Congress and convict them and lock them up. And the only recourse you have is the Supreme Court. Now, think about this. During the last 2 years of the Biden administration, Mike Johnson and the Republicans control the House of Representatives. This is why Alejandro Mayorkas, Biden's Secretary of Homeland Security, was impeached at the beginning of last year. He was impeached. But because Schumer, a Democrat, controlled the Senate, there wasn't even a trial, so Mayorkas was never convicted, and he stayed in office. That was an impeachment. We always think impeachment is the worst thing the House of Representatives could do. But what if, instead of impeachment, what if Congress instead filed inherent contempt charges against Alejandro Mayorkas, Biden's head of Homeland Security? Well, Republicans controlled the House. He could have been tried and convicted in the House of Representatives with just a simple majority, and then he would be arrested and held in jail by the House of Representatives Sergeant of Arms. He couldn't appeal the House's vote to the Senate. Mayorkas would only be able to appeal it before the Supreme Court. It's a lot of power that the House of Representatives and the Senate have that they just don't use. And there's a reason they don't use it. Would you have wanted House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan to use the power that the legislative branch, that Congress, that the House of Representatives has to convict, say, a member of the Biden administration? This is Jordan literally salivating right now over the prospect of being able to try and convict Hunter Biden, but being told he can't. He's just imagining Hillary Clinton or even Stephen Colbert being convicted in the House of Representatives. Again, all it takes is a simple majority in the House of Representatives. That's all, folks. That's it. Now, I don't know. I think I may have used AI to do this. I don't know. And maybe I think it's AI. And I don't approve of it either way. I mean, I don't approve of that. And I don't approve of this. This what a misuse. You know how much water and energy was used to make this garbage? I mean, anyway, this, by the way, is not artificial intelligence. Watch. That is not artificial intelligence. No, I think that's art. I can't remember. What do you think? It's probably artificial. Okay, this I don't believe is artificial intelligence. It's Jim Jordan holding one of Donald Trump's used Q-tips that Trump hands out to his most trusted members of Congress. Some presidents hand out pens used to sign laws or executive orders. Here's a pen, it's a souvenir. But Trump hands out his used Q-tips that people like Jim Jordan then suck on for their life-giving properties. This is real. I think it's real. This is Jim Jordan proudly sucking on one of Donald Trump's used Q-tips in order to gain MAGA superpowers. Maybe it's artificial. I think it might be. Why would somebody do that? Why would I do that? Well, I'm beginning to wonder if this is fake too. Is this real? I don't know. It looks real. I don't know. I used artificial intelligence to make this, but why would I have used artificial intelligence to make this if it wasn't real? I think it's real. All right, where was I?